Hello and welcome to the Round 6 review after the Saints beat the Blues 12 goals 10-82 to 8 goals 12-60 at Marvel Stadium on a Sunday afternoon, 3:20 p.m. A disappointing performance by the Blues yet again, 2 weeks running. It wasn't as diabolical as what Round 5 was, and I think we spoke about there's a way in which you lose, and I think, on a high-level summary, we didn't execute. We didn't use the ball well enough going inside 50, and that was our downfall. Whereas last week was just a different type of loss. I really struggled to get over round 5, if I'm being dead honest. Those of you who watch the content throughout the week probably would have just noticed it. I'm not someone that can hide the way I feel. I keep it real as much as possible. And I just couldn't shake last week. I felt an alarm bell. I felt a red flag. There's ways in which you lose. And there's ways in which you lose which I feel can really dent the collective confidence. And that's what round 5 was. So I was uneasy all week. I just couldn't wait for the bounce yesterday just so we could have a new memory and get away from round 5. And, we talk about 6-day breaks and 5-day breaks and the game is brutal. Well, it was a 10-day break to prepare for the Saints. And to be honest, in the end, I felt like the Saints were more prepared for us than what we were for them. And that's another flag for me. Like the time to get ready for this game and be fully prepared for everything didn't eventuate. I thought I was pretty pleased with the first half, apart from the skill errors and the execution, but I really did notice the intent. I really did notice that ability to be first to the football, or plus 26, I think it was, contested ball at quarter time, which was something we were heavily in the minus last week at quarter time. So, we won the ball. We didn't use the ball necessarily, but we won the ball. So I was relatively okay with how the first half played out. And St Kilda is not a team right now that you're just going to be blowing out of the water. So there was no feeling from my end that we should or we could or we would have put the game away early. So at halftime, I go in thinking, well, this is going to be a really tough game. And where I was sitting, Ross Lyon's box was right to my right. And I just kept looking over every now and again. Totally experienced, knew what levers to pull. There was an adjustment by the Saints after halftime, for sure. Still moved to something he used to do, which was tag Cripps. He really focused on tagging Cripps as opposed to probably winning his own footy. It was his first game back. So not at his best, but still a very strong, powerful midfielder who really focused his attention on stifling Cripps, who I thought was maybe one of our best, if not our best, at halftime. And just collectively an adjustment from the Saints that we didn't seem to be able to figure out. And that is the thing that's disappointing. Teams will adjust to us in-game. Coaches will adjust in-game. And that's the nature of the beast. It's going to happen. Every week is an opportunity to try something that is your best, get something back from the opposition that challenges your best, and then you're forced to figure out another way in the period, in a patch of the game where you've got to find another way, and we just didn't have the ability to find another way. It's really alarming to see how poor we use the football. These are things that we saw and have seen for so long. Basic skill errors, and we've used excuses in the past around the experience of the group. We drafted very heavily at the start of this group. Give them a couple of years. It takes 3 to 4 pre-seasons to get into the flow of the AFL. It's okay, wait till they play 50 games. It's okay, wait till they play 80 to 100 games and they're in the sweet spot. It's okay. And I left yesterday just really wondering what's the standard? What is the standard, and how intense and how obsessed are we with raising the standard and lifting the standard of the way we play and the way we execute? Effort is a non-negotiable, and it's been a non-negotiable for a long time. So I don't know if you can give extra points for effort. We now find ourselves in a point in this group's existence where the next level, or one of the many levels that we need to rise in, is the way we use the ball, the execution. And I don't know, I feel like that's something that should be a lot better than what it is now. And the reason why I say that is because they train it so much. These are professionals. It's a full-time gig for them. I don't know what the protocols are around extra kicking or extra skills practice. I'm sure they all work on their craft. But again, we find ourselves in a situation where opposition puts the pressure on and those skills go somewhere. And to be honest, there were times where there wasn't as much pressure on a player or certain players, and the skill errors were still there. There was a pretty clear directive to move the ball laterally. Ash Hansen flagged it early in the week with the press conference around, we want to get the handball chains so we can create overlaps, we can give our forwards some time to lead into space, things of that nature, and not move the ball so vertically. And I did notice a bit of frustration, even from fans at the game, around our constant want to switch the ball, which I actually, in the first instance, I didn't mind, because in my perception of the game, that was just forcing us to make St Kilda defend and potentially tire them out and really move them across the ground. But what you ended up seeing was a really organised, fit, and a really powerful running St Kilda with the way that they moved defensively as a unit across the ground. And it's amazing. They probably are a team where they've got some really solid players. They've got a couple of superstars, but I think Steele and Crouch are probably up there with their star players. But I didn't think that they relied too heavily on their stars as what they relied on their collective. Their collective. Rowan Marshall's another one. Their collective effort outshone our stars. We rely seemingly on a third of those that are out there to do the bulk of the work. So we got shown up there, and then we just didn't have the ability to find another way. Yeah, and that's weird, and that's so weird. This is a group that had a new system brought into them last year, looked pretty good for half the year, and then pretty much since halfway last year, it's been questionable. And I guess the assumption going into this year, from my end, was that we would be better at what we did last year and be able to refine it and improve it. And so far, it doesn't look that way. And there's just something there, something inexplainable that's there, which, again, rears its head. That issue, that notion. I think there was a real confidence from the coaching box throughout the week. I think Ross put it on the table pretty early in the week. We'll back our system in against theirs. That smelt of confidence to me, and that's what happens when you recruit a coach who's so experienced and so confident and so refined in what he does. For him to use that type of language, and well done, fair play. The Saints, you have to give them all the respect and all the credit. I didn't think they played at their best. I don't know. I'd be curious to see what it sounds like and looks like from the majority of the St Kilda supporters, but I don't think they played at their best. I think they just controlled us. They mitigated the damage of what we were going to bring. They expected a response from Carlton after a poor performance last week. They mitigated it. They go down. We're up by 2 points at halftime, I think it was, and then they went. They picked their moment and they went for it. And they opened the game up in the third. I was a bit shell-shocked at three-quarter time, down by 20. I'm like, where did that come from? What's happened? And then the repetitive image in my head of the kick inside 50 to a St Kilda player. Just, yeah, a real feeling of inevitability. And the next alarm bell for me is that fourth quarter. Like, I'm struggling to understand how we weren't able to lift and find another gear and find something else in the fourth quarter. And yeah, it's going to be another one of those weeks where we're asking more questions than what we have answers, and rightfully so. And now I'm left wondering, what does it all mean? What does it all mean? One of the strengths of this group has been its ability to respond after a poor loss. And I think last year was a good indicator that, apart from obviously the last month of the season, they didn't let one loss become two. They made sure to respond the week after. So now we're in, we're almost a quarter of the way through this season, and we've found a way to lose two in a row. And I made the comment on the fan cams last night. I really do wonder, collectively, as a group, because there are a real selection of players there that you can tell are really locked in and really obsessed with growth and development, and you see it in their games every year. Something gets added to their game. They find a way to evolve, but I don't see it from the majority of the group, the majority of the list. I don't see a collective obsession to get better. And the reason why I say that is because I constantly see a section of the list look better, and I constantly see a majority of the list just kind of stagnate and just kind of stay where they are in their careers and not improve. And, they're professionals. They all work full time doing this. So you have your set program. I don't know what type of extras are being done. It's just really strange to think that this is where we're at with this group. And we're talking about consistent skill errors. We lose our running backs, we'll call them, for the game. I thought Chincotta filled a pretty important role, and I, want to give him some credit. Thought he provided and generated some run. Obviously, losing Sard, losing Doherty from this group, you see the difference it makes. But it didn't matter. I didn't think the game was lost in our defensive 50. I thought the game was lost in our forward third. And we're left asking a very similar question. How are we going to be so? How are we going to be less predictable? We have every team in the competition would die for a forward line like ours, and we haven't figured out a way to move the ball in a way that sets up our forward line for success consistently enough. I listened to both press conferences. I actually watched the fourth quarter again last night. I had to make sense of it. We generated enough opportunities. I actually also don't mind the fact that we're trying to control the ball a bit more. I think we need to learn how to do that for the long term, because I think in finals, in prelims, in grand finals, it tightens up. The game slows down for sure. So we need to learn how to do that for the long term. I think we probably just tried to do it for too long in this game. Way too long. So I'm torn between understanding this is part of the process, learning how to play a more controlled style, and then the other side of me which says, well, the balance was not right. It was too far in the controlled direction, and we lost that instinctive play that which makes us what we are. We are an instinctive, exciting, emotional club, and maybe this is just part of what we're trying to do in our evolution. I can cop a loss when it's an execution-based reason. So pretty frustrated, pretty flat about the loss, but also understanding that, like, if we're going to lose because you can fix up some execution notions. Don't lose like what we did in round 5. So yeah, I'm at a bit of a loss with what it all means. And there is just this feeling of an inevitable, like, okay, we're going to go through the same cycle again. Lo and behold, round 6, we lose 2 in a row. People are already starting to call for Voss's head. But what's that going to do? From where I see it, like, let's talk about coaches and like that. Let's just wait to the end of the year. So we're not doing anything mid-year. We're not doing that. Let's just get to the end of the year and have a full season of data and information to make any informed decision like that. I think we as the fans have just gotten into the habit of, all right, when it goes wrong, well, it's time to get rid of the coaches. Well, the structure's not working. Whereas I'm done with that. No, it's the players. It's the players. We hype them up a lot. For the first time last night, I came to the realization, like, have we overestimated how good they all really are? Are they just good players in a shitty team and they stand out a little bit more, and you put them in a great system and maybe they wouldn't stand out as much? I don't know. But we definitely, we love them. We love our players. We love our club. We love all of it. We love the fact that we're a part of it and that we're members. But yeah, there's another humbling for us, and we've got to work our way through it. It's round 6. There is plenty of the season left to fix it, to figure it out. Most teams in the competition, most of the good teams from last year anyway, have had poor performances and poor losses, like really bad ones. So there is potentially an evening out in the competition. But I just want us to be so much better at hunting opposition. It seems like, teams get up for us. They love playing Carlton. They love beating Carlton. Look at their reaction. And fair enough to them. They should. So they should. We are blessed to have such a big club and a supporter base, and to have a home game where you have that many people attending. There are clubs out there that don't have that want that. And so, yeah. The inevitability part is what gets me the most, because the fourth quarter, you're just watching it unfold over and over again. You're sitting there and you're like, oh, well, today's not the day again. So, yeah, a real struggle to watch it. It's painful. It's so painful to watch. I thought Chera was probably our best player. I gave him the player of the game. Midfield definitely responded from the criticism last week and won a lot of the ball. But as I said earlier in the video, we won the ball. We didn't use the ball well going forward. So, yeah. What about you? What does a loss like that do for you? I asked the same question last week, but I'm curious now, because we didn't lose in that embarrassing manner that we did the week before. So, I don't know. Do you call that a response? I don't know anymore, man. Don't ask me. But what do you feel about where this group's at and what's happening? I'm really curious to read through it and try and understand it and see what happens next week and the week after. But it just seems like a cycle that we seem to be consistently going into with this team and with this club. And I would love for the language coming out of the club to be a little less basic, a little less childish. Not the performance that we wanted. No shit, it's not the performance we wanted, mate. Don't use that. Just please be a little bit more. I would love to see us be a little bit more, not harsh, but assertive and just clear. And maybe raise the standard of the way that we communicate to our people. Is that the reason why we lost? No. But we've got to get better. We've got to get so much better. Chat to you in the comments. Thanks for tuning in. See you throughout the week. Go Blues.